So this is Poet's Walk, isn't it beautiful?
It is very nice.
I love the Narnia lamppost, and when it snows, it's so totally Narnia. All that's missing is a fawn.
A little over 10 years ago, author Sally Lloyd-Jones began working on a mammoth task. She was asked to write a children's Bible. At first, she thought this sounded simple enough, but she would soon learn that the making of the Jesus Storybook Bible would change her life forever.
I mean, it wasn't the easiest thing, it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done, for all kinds of reasons. And so many times I wanted to give up. And now I look back and so much blessing has come to me through that book. And when I look at it now, at that book, I'm like, who is that person who wrote that book? Because it doesn't feel like I could possibly have done it.
The Jesus Storybook Bible has sold over 2 million copies since it was released in 2007. The book has been translated into more than 30 different languages. But despite her success, Sally is quick to give credit to the team God placed around her.
Just like the art, the design, there were so many pieces that had to come together that I believe no single person can say, oh, well, it's done so well because of me. I can't say that. The artist can't say that. The publisher can't say that. And I think that's key to how God can use it, because I know unless God had stepped in it, we wouldn't even be talking about it.
Sally says it took her just over a year to write the Jesus Storybook Bible, but reflecting further, she believes it really was a culmination of her life experiences, including where she was born.
And now the third question I'm going to ask is, can anyone guess where I was born?
England.
Well, you would think, but no, that's not right. Where was I? Europe? No. Africa's right. Whereabouts in Africa? No, it's quite hard, isn't it? Well, I was born in Uganda. But one time I said that to some children. I said, where do you think I was born? And the teacher tried to help them because they weren't getting it. And the teacher said, I'm going to give you a clue. It's somewhere hot and it has giraffes and lions. And one little girl put her hand up and said, a zoo. But I wasn't born in a zoo.
In many ways, I'm probably living the life my dad would have loved to have been able to as a writer.
Yes.
But the only reason I can is because they sacrificed for me, gave me opportunities. Also, that I was born in Africa. That was such an adventure that I went to boarding school when I was 8, which sounds horrific, but it was at that school that I met the teacher that made the difference.
Started teaching you to write.
He said I could write.
While in boarding school, Sally fell in love with limericks thanks to a fun book written by Edward Lear. Soon, she found herself copying his style.
Every time a girl at school, at boarding school, would have a birthday, I'd do some limerick and a cartoon for them. So what's funny about that is I just love doing it. And they say, whatever you do when you're about 7 or 6 or 7, before you become who you think everyone wants you to become, when you're really just yourself, unself-conscious, tells you a lot about what God's planted in you and what your calling is. And so I just love doing that. And then all these years later, it's taken all that time to come round to realize, oh, I love having fun inside books is basically what I do.
Eventually, Sally began writing as a freelance author and published several books before working on the Jesus Storybook Bible. But it's interesting to know that she first took the project because she was out of money. She needed the income. Little did she know, God was going to do something special in her heart and in the hearts of millions of readers. What sets the Jesus Storybook Bible apart from other children's Bible storybooks, including the one I used with my kids when they were young?
Well, I think part of it is God's business. He decided to use this book in a way that none of us imagined. And I know that my role was to do it with excellence and write it in a way that I knew children would love. And I wrote it thinking, you know what, if I gave this everything, it could be amazing. And I just was all in. So my passion in writing this book, most of all, was like, how do I get a child to know that the love God has for them is never stopping, never breaking, never giving up, and that there's nothing they could do for him to stop loving them. Because I think once you know that, it changes everything.
God's love, which is never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever. Those memorable words came to Sally after months of spending time in the Bible as she researched her new book.
My heart was on fire, and I was having a kind of revival at my desk all the time. And I think that phrase just came from this overwhelming, telling all these stories in order, the overwhelming feeling of God loves us in this way that doesn't ever give up and never stops. And I just thought, how many ways can I say it that actually they're not repeating words, they're telling you the different facets of what makes the love unbreakable and never changing, and what so I think it came from that place of that God had warmed my heart.
At the core of the Jesus Storybook Bible is the concept of grace. Sally says she grew up thinking God wanted her to be good so that he could love her. But when she moved to New York City, her pastor, Tim Keller, greatly influenced her understanding of grace.
Grace so captured my heart. And listening to Tim's teaching, it really just put it in me. And that beauty of seeing Jesus as the answer to all those moments in a sermon where it all looks so despairing, like what's going to happen? We're so hopeless. We need someone to save us. And then it turns to Jesus. It was always so powerful. And so I learned by listening to him how to communicate grace with different words. I had to do different words than he uses.
Right.
But I learned from him, he never used jargon, and he always brought it back to Jesus. So without his ministry, I wouldn't be here talking to you.
And now, 10 years after the Jesus Storybook Bible was published, this special book is being read by children and adults all over the world today. The theme of the book breaks through to both old and young alike.
Who could have planned that? God, only God.
Yeah.
And we get to go along, I love the fact that he allows us to be part of creation. He's created everything in the world, and then he calls us to do in our area to bring order out of chaos in whatever area, whether it's sweeping floors, whether it's whatever it is. And I feel, okay, my area is with words, and what a gift to be given that. I'm just so grateful, and how great that we even get to hear these stories.